Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in to the Week 4 edition of the Thursday Night Gridiron here on the Sports Insanity Network. I'm Mike Griffin, joined by Mark Old Ops Guy Halper. And you know what? I'm not even going to introduce you. Bill.
Oh, come on.
Just bag it, Bill. Just bag it. Gentlemen, what's going on?
Bagman is officially in the house.
Yep, I'm in the house.
And Bill, why are you wearing this illustrious headwear piece?
Do I even need to say anything?
Yes, and then we'll get started.
Well, because my beloved New York Giants lost on Monday night to Mark's beloved Dallas Cowboys.
By the way, this is honestly stupid because the bet should have been you have to take a picture in the bag and make that your Facebook profile picture.
That's for the end of the season. That's a
this joke actually started last year. Remember, Mark?
Yes, with the tear jug and everything. All righty,
the exact same bag from last year too. The exact same bag.
That's how long the Giants have sucked, ladies and gentlemen. Now on to Thursday night, Mike.
The Giants have sucked since Ben McAdoo. Let's be real here.
Now that Mark's had his fun with that.
All right. Yeah, we're not talking Giants Cowboys. That's a different Thursday game. Actually, I think that's a Thanksgiving game if I'm not wrong.
It is.
Oh, it is. Can't wait. I can.
I mean, yeah, you could get stuffed in facts, find out if the Giants are just big turkeys or not. I'm trying to think of more good Thanksgiving puns.
I'm sure you have a bunch.
I do.
I'm not
Thanksgiving, not even in Thanksgiving mode yet. Barely registering to Halloween, but we're going to talk about tonight's game. We got the undefeated. I'm going to repeat that word. The undefeated Miami Dolphins going to Cincinnati to play the reigning, defending, undisputed AFC champions, the Cincinnati Bengals. Both teams, the Dolphins last week are coming off their third consecutive win. They beat the Bills 21-19. The Bengals got their first win on Sunday by beating the New York Jets 27-12. All right, Mark, where are we through 3 weeks on these two teams?
Well, as you know, that my pick was very heavily favored on Miami taking the AFC East. I think they've done more than enough to put the team together. However, we're not going to know that until the end of the season. Going into this week, you have Cincinnati coming off of a blowout win in the New York Jets at 27-12, and then got literally upsetted by my Dallas Cowboys the week before. That I think they were still in shock from the week's loss. That's how they needed to realize they needed to win badly against the Jets. In this game, with Miami playing as well they are, Cincinnati, where are we at 3 weeks? We're pretty much ahead of where we thought Miami was going to be. We're way behind where Cincinnati we thought was going to be. I did not have them starting off the season this badly.
Well, I think right now when it comes to Cincinnati, like if you watch last week when I was with my cousin Brian, we both said that, and I think it was I who mainly said it, that Cincinnati was one of the 0-2 teams that desperately needed a win because they were coming off a Super Bowl hangover. But you know what? They won. They beat the Jets. I want to just give a word of sympathy to Eric Ford, Danny Boy Reginald, and Ross Mason on that one. Sorry, not sorry. But yeah, I think the Bengals really bounced back from last week, and I think they can get back on track this week. But it's gonna be tough, as we saw with as we now have the 3-0 first place Mike Rifkin's beloved Miami Dolphins. As we as we saw last week, who knocked off the Bills, who everyone and their mother loves, and with Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, you're seeing this good combination right now with Tyreek and Tua and Waddle. So I think we are going to be seeing a really good slugfest tonight.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Bengals come into the season the AFC champions. They stumbled against Pittsburgh week 1 in a game where they really could have won that game. Even though Joe Burrow turns the ball over 5 times, if Evan McPherson makes an extra point, they win. If they convert, if they make a field, if their long snapper's not hurt, they potentially win. Then they go into Dallas and they lose to Cooper Rush, who all he does is win, which makes Dak very expendable, but that's a whole nother conversation. If you were to tell me when the schedule came out, the Miami Dolphins would be 3-0, I would have called you drunk or something, because I am a very optimistic person. I like to define myself as optimistic. But when you say the first 3 games are Bill Belichick, Lamar Jackson, and the Buffalo Bills, I would have accepted 2-1. I would have gladly accepted 2-1. I would have taken 1-2, to be perfectly honest with you. But to go into this game with a chance to go to 4-0, to me, I don't. For me right now, this game is being played for all intents and purposes with house money.
Well, pretty much.
With house money for the Dolphins. It's, obviously you want to go out there and win, but listen, you want to go out there and win, but there's definitely a conversation to be had. Hey, this could be one of those nights where they could just little hangover effect here in this game. Cincinnati, I think you're talking about 2 of the best teams in the AFC, along with Buffalo for sure, along with Baltimore, and probably along with Kansas City, because I really don't know what the rest of the AFC West is right now. I mean, it's not what I thought it would be.
No.
I thought it would, but it's been bad. But these 2 teams play tonight, both coming off of a win. Now, the Bengals in the first 2 weeks, their offensive line, which they revamped over the offseason. Ted Karras from the Patriots came over. La'el Collins from Mark's Cowboys came over. And Alex Kappa from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers came over to fix an offensive line that had Joe Burrow sacked 70 times last year, including the playoffs, including 7 times in the Super Bowl. Both were NFL records. Joe Burrow was sacked 13 times the first 2 weeks. Last week against the Jets, Joe Burrow was sacked a grand total of
twice,
2 times. So I don't know what they did, but how big of a concern, Mark, is the offensive line here?
Well, seeing that La'el Collins was out for that game, I mean, they paid him a lot of money to leave Dallas and come up, and it was a shock because he actually had a pretty good camp, but that whole line is injured that they pretty much put together to open up holes for Mixon and giving chance for Burrow to get the ball downfield to either Chase, Higgins, or Boyd. The problem is that the line is a band-aided thing, if not anything nice enough to call it. It's being held together by Elmer's glue. And as you said, Burrow is seeing the turf as he mostly did last year.
Bill?
Yes, I'm going to agree with Mark. The offensive line did a really good job defending Joe Burrow last week. Like you said, he was only sacked dose times. And because of that, he threw for 275 yards. And when it comes to other things, when it comes to the offensive line, we also saw that the Bengals ran the ball 20 times in the second half. That they ran 20 times in the second half. And I'm sorry, give me a sec. Even though it only produced 2.5 yards per carry, it helped the Bengals sustain drives. And they had 2 drives of more than 6 minutes in the second half. So right now, I think that the offensive line is really holding together than it did last week. Than it did 2 weeks ago. I think the Bengals offensive line is going to be looking, I think, is slightly improving. But we got to see tonight what it's going to be like.
Yeah, for me, the jury's still out. I know the Jets got to Burrow twice, but if you look back at what the Dolphins did last week to Josh Allen, I think they were credited with 4 sacks last week defensively, but they were in his face all day long. In that heat, there was no social distancing. There was no masks involved. They were all over the place. So they show a lot of all-out pressure.
And with that being said, the Bills' offense put up over 450 yards against the Dolphins last week.
Yeah.
If that's of anything as a say, it could be looking at the same thing again tonight.
I'll say this because I think the Bengals are very similar to the Bills, but I'll say this about Joe Burrow. Josh Allen runs with the ball. He's more of a runner than Joe Burrow is. Burrow is a guy who, not that he can't do it, I wonder if he's a little leery off that knee injury he had a couple of years ago, to where he's at the point where maybe he just has to throw the ball away, which I still think is something he has to learn. But I also think Cincinnati's got to use Joe Mixon more. That's my thing. Like, Joe Mixon was a top 5 running back last year. He was top 5 in yards. If you utilize him, because guess what? You can't guard Jamar Chase one-on-one. You're going to need help. Higgins is really good also. Then you add in Boyd, and they have all these weapons, and it's just, here you go, Joe Mixon. That free 5-6 yards, and you're playing, ahead of the sticks, and it helps your offensive line if you run the ball.
But one thing you have to consider is that it's not going the way that you want. You got to change it up. They've been trying to play balanced attack, and you can't play a balanced attack in this league this year.
Yeah. And scores will dictate. They were down so big to Pittsburgh, they had to throw the ball. They were, down big to Dallas at one point, they had to throw the ball. They were never down against the Jets. They were winning the most of the way through. By the way, Robert Saleh, we keep receipts as well. So I think that's where kind of this game will be won and lost. If the Bengals can protect Joe Burrow, I think they have a great chance of winning. If they can't protect Joe Burrow, and we get Bills hero in life, Eli Apple, one-on-one against Tyreek Hill.
Oh, God.
I don't know how much I like that matchup.
Well, he is a former Giant, so.
Giant legend. Actually, you know what? With Halloween being a month away, he loves to bob for apples, too.
How do you like them apples? They like them apples, Mike.
I never was an apple guy. I think apples are the most overrated fruit out there.
Oh, most overrated.
Wow. I never thought I heard the day that I heard an apple is overrated.
Apples are overrated. Apples, apple juice, apple jacks.
You want to keep naming apple items? I can name it a lot more apple items. Why the hell are we talking about this?
Yeah, why are we talking about apples?
Why not? An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Not in my case.
I'm so glad I didn't say that.
You said it, not us.
Yes, I know.
All right. All right. So one of the cool things about these two teams is each of them has a quarterback and a receiver who played in college together, which I don't think it's been talked about enough, but I think it's cool. The Bengals have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, while from LSU, while the Dolphins have Jalen Waddle and Tua from Alabama. Now, if you go back to the last time Burrow and Tua played against each other in Tuscaloosa, Jamar Chase went for over 100 yards at the touchdown. Waddle had 3 catches in the game, but then you realize who he was behind on the Alabama depth chart.
Right.
Names like Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, Devontae Smith. By the way, I don't know when Alabama turned into wide receiver U, but
Okay.
So Mark, which duo do you like better, Burrow and Chase or Waddle and Tua?
Having the chance to watch both, wide receiver and quarterback matchups, play. I like the combination of Burrow and Chase better than Tua and Waddle. And here's why. It has nothing to do with talent. I think they're both equal, meaning Waddle and Chase are both equally as good. Not to take away from Tua. I mean, he's a good, not average. He's a good above average quarterback with great field vision and good pass percentage. I think Burrow's arm is just stronger, and that gives the chance for Burrow to succeed more than Waddle.
Bill?
I'm going to go with Burrow too. With Burrow as well, he has a passer rating of 103.8 with 5,423 yards, 40 touchdowns in 19 games with Jamar Chase in his career. But I am still really impressed with Jalen Waddle with Tua. He's got 83 catches for 879 yards and has scored 8 touchdowns in 13 games with Tua in his career. So, but I am going to have to go with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
So what you guys are saying is I have to be the homer and defend.
Hey, that's not a bad thing to defend.
No, it's not. But I'll say this also because I think both are legit. And I think when you look at the overall aspect of the quarterback position, and I think, Mark, you'll agree with me on this. Before you judge a young quarterback and you say, I don't like him, he's terrible, get rid of him, you have to get him at least one weapon to see, okay, let's see how it plays out. Now, in Cincinnati, they had Tyler Boyd, who's been around a little bit. Not really a one, but a really good player. T. Higgins was a really good player at Clemson. But Jamar Chase is just different. Like, he's not like TLC. He doesn't go chasing waterfalls. He goes chasing the touchdowns out there, man.
And there's only one receiver that Chase really reminds me of is his age and his talent, and that's Jerry Rice. Mm-hmm. And that's who I compare him to directly.
So I think for when we entered last year, if Tua was claimed to be the guy, and I think a lot of people in the Dolphins organization believed that, they had to get him a guy. And they got him Waddle at 6 because Chase went at 5 to the Bengals, which is really weird if you think about how that played out. But then this year, the Dolphins said, you know what? We're going to even step it up. We're going to go get Tyreek Hill too. And with the game on the line Sunday, who does Tua throw a dime piece to?
Some pass.
Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
By the way, he set the rookie record for receptions last year. He has his own little touchdown dance in the Waddle, which is arguably the greatest thing of all time. That there's something there between all four, to be honest with you, because Burrow and Chase, for me, Burrow to Chase kind of reminds me of Manning to Harrison.
Okay.
Because whenever Peyton needed it, he went to Marvin Harrison. Or as Chris Berman would say, Starvin Marvin Harrison. Shout out Boomer. But, I get that sense here with Burrow and Chase too. When he needs them, he could go to them. But I'm going to be the homer. I'm going to say Tua and Waddle. But listen, if you want to get to where the Bengals got last year, you need those guys to perform like Burrow and Chase did last year.
And it's all opportunity now for both wide receivers in Miami, meaning Hill and Waddle. Hill is the big name brought over from KC. Waddle had, as Mike said, career year in rookie numbers wise, and is going to have another big year this year. Who is necessarily better? Whoever wins tonight. That's the answer. I'm sorry. It's hard to put a crown on either one of these two because they're that good.
That's fair. Okay. So we're trying something new here on Thursday Night Gridiron. Mark,
That's
you
me.
are playing your daily fantasies.
Okay.
I just want you to go through what you've set up lineup wise, and maybe what are some of your favorite prop bets for tonight's game.
All right. So mind you, none of this is a sponsor. MGM and FanDuel is where I live. My mix up tonight is pretty much, no offense, Mike, all Cincinnati Bengals with the exception of the Buffalo kicker tonight. I'm pretty heavy on Miami. I think I just screwed up my own self. Let me rephrase that. Because I'm looking at the screen. I was looking at the TV and getting stats. I meant to say I'm heavy on the Bengals tonight with Joe Burrow leading the way at my 1.5 point spot and with Jamar Chase. And then smaller little pieces. I do have the Buffalo kicker, though, but that's the smallest piece for me going Buffalo-wise. It was hard not to choose someone like Devin Singletary, who had a great week last week in receptions out of the backfield. But I honestly think Miami is a little bit more focused on that, and it's going to hold I hate to use the word hold. It's going to stop Mixon, and it's going to why Burrow is going to have the night of nights. So I see it's a possibility of 2 100-yard receivers in Higgins and in Chase. Boyd can still put up 50 yards himself. And you still got Mixon. I mean, P. Ryan, if you want me to just throw in a name there. You still got the right talent on the field. Is it going to be enough to destroy Miami? No, but to beat them, yes. As points-wise go, I believe the spread is at 3.5, as it was about 2 hours ago, favored in
Cincy's
favor. I don't see 3.5 really holding. I think you got 50 minutes left. It drops to 3.
I got to be honest. I never understood the half point because you can't get a half point.
Well,
the only way you have to understand it is that a field goal is 3.
No, so, I get it. I was trying to make a dumb joke.
Oh,
but yeah. All right. So 3.5 Bengals. Your daily fantasy is leaning towards the Bengals.
Yes,
so you're Bengal heavy. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm looking at one screen and reading another.
No, that's totally understandable. Things happen. Everyone makes mistakes, and some live, some don't. We go from there. All right. We're getting down to the nitty gritty. What is your guys' key matchup for tonight's game?
Bill, I'll let you go first.
Okay. My key match, my X factor for tonight's game is, I think it's going to be Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill for the Dolphins. I think that's what the X factor is, because Tua with that wide receiver core is going to be amazing. For the X factor for the Cincinnati Bengals is, I think they're just going to have to keep working on that O-line, like from what they did last week of how they protected Burrow and he was only sacked twice. So I'm going to have to say that the X factor tonight for the Cincinnati Bengals is going to be the offensive line.
As X factors go, Mike, one thing I want to point out to you, Chase Edmonds looked good.
Yeah.
So that should give you a little bit of security.
First 2 rushing touchdowns of the year for the Dolphins.
Right.
On Sunday.
I think that's a very big key for Miami, is that you're going to have to utilize the run more than they do, because you're not going to survive just throwing the ball against Cincy. You have to draw those linebackers in. But for Miami, the biggest key is going to be Chase Edmonds. And wide receivers we've talked about, but Chase Edmonds is going to dictate how that ball moves from Miami tonight.
So for me, I'm going with 2 different things as well. One, Bill, you kind of mentioned it, is the offensive line of the Bengals. How do they protect Burrow, especially if the Dolphins show that all-out pressure? The other one, and it's kind of someone called TO because it's get your popcorn ready kind of thing. Jamar Chase against Xavier Howard. That's
a great matchup.
That is going to be a ton of fun. Both relate to the Dolphin defense, but Howard versus Chase could be huge. And then what the defense front could do against the Bengals offensive line, that could be big. For the Dolphins offensively, I look at Mike Gesicki. Bill, you brought up Waddle and Hill, and that's fair. And I think both of those guys are going to get a lot of attention here. A guy like Mike Gesicki, or a guy like Mark's favorite player, Cedric the Entertainer, they could step up in a massive role here.
Forgetting about Cedric, because unfortunately, you don't hear his name enough, because look who
he was hurt. I'm not sure if he is back tonight. I have to look that up.
He is going to be such a slot great receiver once he gets up to speed with Waddle and Hill. If you looked at the way he maneuvered around in Dallas, it's going to be very interesting. Can he become, it's a tough stretch, but he is in a prime position, not only to stay himself as number 3, because no way 1 and 2 are going anywhere, that Wilson could become a very big slot player. And I'm thinking more back of the lines of, and Bill will cry a little bit, of Sterling Shepard is 1, Terrence Williams is 2. And to even give you, how about Alvin Harper, who made his life at the 2nd and 3rd spots for years in Dallas and won 3 Super Bowls.
So take it back. Cedric Wilson is an inactive tonight. He's still banged up. But eventually he could.
Eventually he's going to. Eventually, yes, he will.
The inactive list just came out for the Dolphins. Yeah. So the Dolphin inactives include Cedric Wilson, Myles Gaskin, Noah Igbenogany, Hunter Long, Ethan Carter, and Eric Izukuma. So those are the Dolphins inactives. If you give me a second, I can look up the Bengals inactives.
Of course.
Give me 1 second. There's the Bengals. I just put a DJ Reader on IR is one of the things I just got. So that's a loss for their defense.
In this case, I really don't think there's enough inactives to really cause Cincinnati a problem in losing positioning.
No.
This is a slugfest that is going to revolve around Joe Burrow doing much more than what Josh Allen did. And that's hard to say, because Burrow has got to Allen put up 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, plus can run the ball while not looking like a loaf of bread in your hand to get slapped out. Burrow has to replicate those numbers for Cincinnati to win. And with that offense, I can't see it not falling that way. However, Miami's defense has got to step up. And yes, we have one of the best wide receiver cornerback matchups of the year. And Howard and whoever he ends up covering, whether it's Waddle or Hill, doesn't matter. 1 or 2, he's going to be, all the attention is going to be on him. It's a tough situation for Cincy.
Mm.
So
Just give me 1 second. That's the Beng. Okay, so the Bengals inactives are Travion Williams, Dante Smith, Jackson Carmen, and Drew Sample.
and that's just a sample of what's not going to play.
That's a sample size, man. That's not how they drew it up, but that's a sample size. All right. We're here.
Yeah.
We are.
We are at the end. The end is here. So, predictions, who wins and why?
Mike, I'm not going to upset you because I want to give Bill a little bit more time. So I'm going to tell you straight out, it will be Cincinnati. It is going to be behind the passing game of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Boyd, and Higgins. Randall Brugge, you got the shout out. There you go. You're happy your Bengals will win tonight.
And Mike, you're gonna like me. I'm gonna go with Miami here. I think if they can stay on top of if Tua can just find Tyreek and Waddle tonight, I think they're going to be in good shape. But like as Mark said earlier, they got to run the ball. And
Mike, you're not going to like what you have to say. I'm taking the Bengals. I just am. I said it at the beginning. I'll say it again. If there was ever a time for a letdown game,
this is it.
This is the game. You had the big win over the Bills, short week, on the road. The Bengals are wearing those epic new jerseys. If this game was in Miami, I might feel a little bit differently. In Cincy on the, I think it's a close game. I don't think the Bengals blow the doors off of this, but I do think the Bengals win at home.
And it's gonna, as I said, it's gonna be dependent on Burrow throwing.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's gonna be a Burrow day.
Burrow day.
I don't think it'll be Tua as well. I just think the Bengals are gonna outduel them. That's what my gut has told me since Monday. And which I really thought was just something else. It turned out my gut was just telling me the Bengals will win.
Well, at least you don't have to worry about putting a bag over your head because you don't have anybody here to make a bet with that forward. Oh, sorry, Bill, you're still here.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I couldn't resist that, Bill.
In my defense, I am not a real gambler.
And that I could never take money from my guys. You know that it's making them embarrassed to wear another jersey or a bag on their head. Tears.
See, you say that.
I'm still here, Mark.
Yes, I know, Bill.
I was the kid in school who used to have a jersey of a bunch of different teams, and I would wear one every day. I had about 3 Bengals jerseys because I had a Carson Palmer. I had 2 different Chad Johnsons. One with Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco. And I had a TJ Hushmanzada jersey.
Oh, God,
let's see. If I can go randomly, I had a Joey Harrington Lions jersey.
That is really
the Joey Harrington 3 of 3 for like $800 when it first came out.
Let's see, where else I had a Byron Leftwich jersey.
A lot of his rookie cards.
I had one of Mark's all-time favorite heroes, Ricky Williams. I had multiple Ricky Williams.
I love Ricky Williams.
Ronnie Brown. Yeah. Oh, the list goes on and on. For more of Jersey talk, we
will have a Jersey episode of the Jersey of the Time.
Oh, we could totally have a Jersey. Side note, this is totally off base. But that's how we're going to end Thursday Night Gridiron here on SIN's YouTube page. Check out the YouTube page for vlogs and other great stuff that we post to the YouTube page. Check out podcasts, Anchor, wherever you get your podcast. Check out the website, www.thesportsinsanitynetwork.com. We'll be back Sunday morning for Sunday Sideline Report on the SIN YouTube page. But for Mark Goldovsky, Halpern, and Bill Put a Bag Over His Head Murphy, I'm Mike Griffin. Thank you for listening to SIN's Thursday Night Gridiron. Enjoy the game, everyone, and we'll talk to you Sunday morning. Namaste.